Hi friends, Shay here. So let's talk about some of the best books I've read in 2021 so far. So this year has been a banner reading year for me. I feel like I've really started to hone my personal taste in books. So I've had way more 5 stars than I have in any previous year when it comes to actual novels. I'm much more selective about 5 stars that I give novels as opposed to like manga. Because I do my manga reading based on enjoyment, but there's a lot that goes into me giving a 5 star to a book, and I've had 30-ish or more this year, and that's really high for me. So let's go ahead and dive in. Everything on this list I've given 5 stars, and I absolutely love and adore. So first up, let's talk about the first book I actually read this year, and that is Call Me Maybe by Cara Bastone. This is an Audible original where it is a full cast about a woman who's about to launch the website of her dream job, and it's not working. So she contacts customer service and ends up on a very long customer service call. And what she doesn't know is that she's on a customer service call with the owner of the company. And they start to have feelings for each other over the line, and they just enjoy chatting with each other and each other's company. And things move and evolve from there. This is beautiful. I absolutely love and adore it. I've done videos on this. I have a blog post on it. Like, I've done quite a bit talking about Call Me Maybe. So I highly recommend checking out both of the Cara Bastone Audible originals, because I also read Sweet Talk this year and also gave it 5 stars, and they are connected. So I do recommend reading them in publication order. So Call Me Maybe first and then Sweet Talk. Next on this list is a fantasy romance that was recommended to me by Tamika from over at Library of Tomes, and that is Beauty in Darkness. This is a fairy tale inspired series. This first one is obviously Beauty and the Beast inspired, and y'all know me and Beauty and the Beast stories. It just happens. This is not the only Beauty and the Beast story in this stack. We'll just put it that way. This one was really well done, and it honestly surprised me, and I did consume this one via audio as well. And this audiobook, the narrator was fantastic. But in this one, we're essentially in this country, and there's just too much to explain. But if you love Beauty and the Beast inspired stories, definitely give this one a try. And next up, this next installment is actually a series because I loved them all. So I'm just going to talk about them all. And that is the Beards in Bondage series by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is a BDSM inspired story. We do have a menage couple in this series, and all of them are deeply rooted in traumas. So do check out the lists of content warnings for these books, but they are handled so beautifully. The second one involves someone with either like an autism or Asperger's kind of mental condition and all sorts of things like that. Like, it's amazing. Like, what Rebecca Weatherspoon has done with this series is truly phenomenal. I cannot wait to read more Rebecca Weatherspoon soon. All right, now we're on to the things that I own physically. I did read all the Beards in Bondage books through my e-reader, through my Kindle. So we're just going to start at the top and go to the bottom. So first up, we have To Beguile a Beast by Elizabeth Hoyt. This is another one that I read very early on in the year, but absolutely loved and adored. So we have Sir Alistair, who's been a recluse up in his mansion because he's scarred and he scares all the children and all those kinds of things. And then we have Helen, who is running away from her former lover, who is just an abusive manipulator. And she gets a job to be Sir Alistair's house maid in his house, or, maid servant. I don't know what you'd call it, but she gets a job to do that. But the thing is, Alistair doesn't know she's been hired. So when she shows up with her 2 children in tow, he says, okay, you can stay for the night. But of course she ends up staying longer. They end up growing together. But I loved seeing his relationship with the children as well, because I honestly think that was handled so beautifully. And the way that these two come together and start to trust each other was truly amazing. And I absolutely love and adore it. And I really need to get to the other books in this series. Next, we have Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. Y'all, I really just do enjoy Beverly Jenkins. Like, if you're not reading Queen Bev, you need to fix that. because I'm so glad I fixed that last year. But in this particular one, we have Belinda, who, and this one is tied into the Levesque series as well as being the first book in the Women Who Dare series. But this is Belinda and Drake's story. Belinda is a school teacher, I believe. Thugs destroy her school, and then Drake is an architect, and he offers to help finish the school, and they just immediately have this connection and bond, and it's beautiful. I absolutely love and adore this. Highly, highly, highly recommend Queen Bev. I did also read Wild Rain in this series this year, and I really enjoyed that as well. I did like this one slightly better, though. The next book on this list was probably one of the biggest surprises for me this year, and again, I read it very early on in the year, and that is Then There Was You by Mona Shroff. This involves two people of Indian descent who have different traumatic things going on in their lives, trigger warnings and content warnings for loss of a child, miscarriage, and grief and depression and loss over all of those kinds of things. So Daniel, his child died in a school shooting years ago. And then we have Annika, and she was engaged to this guy. She was about to have, she was pregnant with his baby. The baby miscarries, and he immediately leaves her, so she's grieving lots of things in her life. And it is absolutely amazing the way these two come together. They share their culture together, and they truly I cried so much reading this book. Like, I'm tearing up thinking about it. This is beautifully done, but it is a very tough read to get through in ways because it is so emotional. And being somebody who's dealt with infertility issues and things like that, this really hit me in a really tough way. So make sure you're in the right headspace before you pick up this book, but do please pick it up because it is beautifully done. And it does not diminish any of the grief that either of these two feel by them being together. And it's beautifully done. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Next up, I'm going to actually say an author because I've read 3 books by this author this year. I've given them all 5 stars, and that is Tasha Suri. So specifically, I'm going to talk about Empire of Sand here. This is the first book that I read by her. And in this one, we have this really interesting world where part of the people, it's based on Indian culture as well. So part of the culture speaks to the demons and the dark creatures of the land through their blood, and then the others just shun them all, of course. And so our main character, Meher, her stepmother essentially kicks her out and sells her off to the Mahal. I don't remember. But sells her off to this magical person, essentially. And so she's forced to commit this rite, or to perform this rite and act with another person to make this person more powerful. And it tears at the souls of the people who perform the rite. And so this is about them rebelling against that and setting the world to rights. And it's beautifully done. The audiobooks for these are fantastic if you prefer to listen. But the writing that Tasha Suri has is amazing, and I love the narrator that she got for these, so highly recommend the series. Next up, no one will be surprised this one's on my list, and that is Neon Gods by Katie Robert. Now, this is Hades and Persephone, super smutty, a lot more voyeurism than like BDSM kind of situation, but essentially in this society, Persephone was about to be sold off to Zeus to become the next Hera. But she doesn't want that. So she goes outside to get some air because her mother threw this on her and she wasn't expecting it. So she starts walking away and she realizes that Zeus's men are following her. And so she runs across the river Styx into the arms of Hades. And Hades is rumored to not exist anymore. But from there, Hades and Persephone make a deal that Persephone needs to look thoroughly corrupted by Hades to protect herself from becoming Zeus's new Hera, because his Heras tend to not live very long. Anyways, this was amazing and beautiful. We have that grumpy sunshine thing going on here. as is usually present in a Hades and Persephone kind of story. And it's amazing. It's very political and very politically charged, more so than I was expecting. So I am very much looking forward to the next installment in the series. All right, the next two are the beefiest books that I've probably read this year. So the first is A Court of Silver Flames. Nobody's surprised this is on my list. I talk about how much I really do love Sarah J. Maas's writing, but I really fell in love with Cassian and Nesta throughout the course of this book. Their story and their journey was amazing. Seeing everything from Nesta's perspective really helps you look at the situation differently. I do think Nesta's still a brat and behaved badly a lot of the time, and I'm not going to deny her behavior or justify her behavior. But man, Cassian loves her through it all, and I love how he loves her. And it's amazing and beautiful, and it's very full of beautiful quotes. I highly recommend reading it if you haven't. And then last, but absolutely not least on this list, is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. You see little tabs there. But in Rhythm of War, this is the 4th installment in the Stormlight Archive, so I really can't tell you too much. But all I will tell you is this book changes the course of the series in so many ways, and I cried multiple times throughout this book because this book forced characters to grow and face things that they've been putting on the back burner for a long time. And I think it was so beautifully done. Brandon Sanderson truly is a master of his craft, and he knows exactly what he's doing with his characters and with his series. So as long as you trust Sanderson, you will always be in for an amazing ride. So I highly recommend the Stormlight Archive if you haven't, and just read Brandon Sanderson as an author as well, because I've enjoyed everything I've picked up from him. So with that said, those are the 10 books that stood out on my list of 5 stars. Let me know in the comments down below some of your favorite reads of the year, and maybe I'll pick them up in the second half and we'll see how that goes. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.